People in stock photos, what's the weirdest way you've seen your photos being used? When I was a kid, my mom took me for a photo shoot. Then a month later I was on a pamphlet that said millions of children don't have homes. Adopt one today. I ended up finding myself on one of those now hiring posts on Facebook for a company I was trying to get hired at. I'm on the opposite end. I'm a graphic designer, so I spend a lot of time on stock photo sites and I have so many questions. Some of the photos I've seen, there's no possible context that would make sense for them to be used anywhere. My family did a stock photo shoot when our kids were young, like 1 and 3. A picture they took on our porch ended up in the opening credits for The Americans. My friend was in a stock photo where he held up a baby picture and it got used for an anti-circumcision ad campaign. Was pretty shocked when I saw his face on the side of a bus. My ex used to work with a local photographer who is apparently pretty well known. He took a photo of me and my family and now it's a permanent piece at the New Mexico Museum of Art in Santa Fe. So strange. I wonder how many people's houses I'm in. I'm in an ad campaign in my home state in Australia for the government. I'm the face of Don't Buy Alcohol for Underage People. It's just me looking like a dad who's thinking of buying a drink, obviously for a teenager somewhere. Ironically, I don't actually have my own kids. I get emails from people I haven't heard from in years saying I saw you on the wall of the bottle shop, which is kinda funny. I have some friends that found one of their wedding pictures from Facebook somehow printed on a pillow in a market in a Middle Eastern country. Like, they just randomly happened upon their wedding photo in a random street market. They are from the US. In the military, some cameraman tagged along on a mission. Like 4 years later I saw footage of me in a gun turret on the news. I guess news broadcasters oftentimes just play generic combat footage and photos that look Middle Eastern-y enough and rightly assume nobody will notice that the shots were taken months or years before the actual incident they are talking about. I was asked to go to a big opening event party for a park in China. As a foreigner, this kind of thing is pretty common. They want some white faces, free food and drink. All the other guests had to pay. But in the end they start guilt tripping me. Put on this traditional Chinese costume, they say. Some kind of kung fu looking robe thing. Let us take some pictures, they say. Fine, I'll let them do it. A few weeks go by and random people start pointing me out in public. My students are giggling in class. Finally, when I'm out and about, someone approaches me. Are you the guy from? And shows me a picture on the phone. My likeness in Chinese traditional wear has been printed on building-sized billboards around the city. I look goofy as fuck. All around the city, where I live and work. Edit, sorry to disappoint everyone, but I spent a few hours going through old hard drives and was unable to come up with the photo. My only evidence to prove this story really happened is who would make up such a weird story as this one. In college, a photography student took some pictures of me playing classical guitar. I ended up in a Viagra ad. I was 19. College must have been rough. Yeah, my penis still has scars. One of my daughters has a few stock photos out there. It's always odd seeing her face unexpectedly. It doesn't happen super regularly, but it makes me double take when it happens. The university took a bunch of professional photos of me and some friends for their billboards and campaigns. I was pretty surprised to open a handbook and find out I was the face of their fine arts program, especially pottery. I was a neuroscience major. This takes place many years ago when foreigners were a rare sight in Japan. I'm a big, friendly looking white guy, and I was asked to do some photos of a couple on a date. So I go around to some scenic locals with a beautiful Japanese woman, the photographer, and his assistants. Fun day. Took tons of romantic photos. And that was the end of it. Until a month or two later, when my date and I showed up on posters all over the subway as part of an AIDS awareness campaign. Because you can catch that from foreigners, you know. Needless to say, my friends and coworkers thought it was hilarious, and amazingly it didn't have any noticeable impact on my dating life. Looking back, my only regret is that I didn't steal one of the posters. My father is a photographer, and so my sister and I were models for stock photography. I was on shopping bags in Mexico. My sister was in a bank brochure. My favorite though is when my sister's high school science class was reading from a textbook and she sees a picture of me putting mascara on in a mirror. She yelled out to the class, "Hey, that's my sister." Apparently it gave everyone a good laugh. On a less funny note, I was a kinda chubby kid, so my dad did a whole shoot of me in a grey tracksuit looking sad on a scale and pinching my belly fat in the mirror, etc. Ended up on being used in a child obesity campaign. He didn't tell me what it was used in until years later. I let a photographer friend take a stock photo of me. I looked sad in it, and it ended up on some website about victims of abuse. Not me, but my younger brother had his picture taken when he was about 9 or 10 for the Big Brothers Big Sisters program. My brother was a really cute red-headed kid with freckles, and they asked my mom if they could use his photo for their promotional materials. A few months later, we get a brochure in the mail with my brother's face on it talking about the Big Brothers program. It was really funny because they had changed his name to Timmy and in little kid handwriting written things like, "I really need a big brother, and have you found me a big brother yet?" And then ended it with "Love, Timmy." My siblings and I laughed a lot over it and called my brother Timmy for weeks. Edit. Wow. My first gold. Thanks, kind stranger. This will definitely be passed along. My whole family modeled back in the 80s. Somehow my dad ended up in a brochure for some born again church that said he was a sinner and adulterer until he found Jesus. My ex was on a bus stop ad for her college, but someone turned her into Hitler with a missing tooth. Edit. Swear it wasn't me. It made me laugh though. I found a photo from my private FB account on a news article, then a stock image site. It was a helicopter I worked on out in the snow in Minnesota. They said it was Afghanistan in the article. I disputed the photo, but it's still there. I no longer post photos on FB because of this. Edit. I just did a Google machine search for it and it popped up as the second picture. It's on multiple sites. Even a .governor. The money isn't what bothers me. My FB profile is pretty locked down, and the photo is on multiple sites with a made up story. My husband and I did stock photos when I was pregnant with our first. I ended up seeing myself later on the side of a bus as well as in a pamphlet for young moms. Flattering. At my doctor's office. The more interesting part, though, is that my husband took part in another family shoot, various poses, cooking in the kitchen, etc. Years later I was looking up a colleague on Facebook and her cover photo was her and my husband chopping vegetables in a stock photo. More context on colleague, she was apparently at the shoot too. I was in a different room doing prenatal yoga poses with another girl, while my husband did the family photo shoot. The colleague was the mom, husband was dad, and a teen girl was daughter, which I gloated over, of course. He was cast as having a teen kid, while I got teen mom. At the time I had not yet worked with this person. Years later I became acquainted with her through work, but only peripherally. I happened to look her up on LinkedIn/Facebook to see what her work background was. That's when I discovered the picture. It was so fucked up. It was several years after the shoot. People had commented on her photo too, like "you look great" and shit. She never explained the nature of the photo, and it is still her cover photo to this day, over 7 years later. When I was a senior in high school, I was chosen to do a stock photo shoot for a big health company. They didn't tell me what they were going to use my pictures for. I was just excited to get free clothes and a tiny bit of cash. The way I found out how they used my photo was when I went to the gynecologist about a year later and saw my picture on the wall. I was the face of teenage pregnancy counseling. Edit. I was definitely not pregnant. I actually think I was still a virgin when the photo shoot happened. I didn't even know I was in a stock photo until my grandma bought a picture frame at Sears with my T-ball team picture in it. They saved her a step. I had my photo taken in high school studying with my friend at the time. Almost 5 years later, my brother said I was in the county brochure for library services. The picture was most likely chosen cause of the diversity, Asian girl and a black girl. My stock photo was used to sell men's wigs. I have a full head of hair. Also, a picture of me looking slightly sad was used next to a definition of Asperger's. I reverse image searched a picture taken of me while on patrol by an embedded journalist. In it I'm holding up my weapon and using the optic to check something out, so it looks like I'm aiming. Turns out some Eastern European news site used that picture of me in their article about the army soldier that left his base in the middle of the night and killed 16 civilians. You can't make out my face in the picture, but I'm forever linked to a heinous war crime in a small way. This thread is going to be on YouTube, guaranteed.